The forgotten healer. The battlefield was a chaotic mess of smoke, blood, and dying soldiers. Nadine knelt beside a wounded fighter, her hands moving swiftly as she injected a coagulant serum into his veins. His alien blood shimmered under the harsh light of the battlefield. "Stay with me," she muttered, pressing a bandage onto his wound. The soldier groaned, but his breathing steadied. Behind her, the medical station buzzed with low-level activity. Despite the war raging outside, the other medics, mostly alien doctors, barely looked her way. Humans weren't considered important in this war. They were tolerated, nothing more. "Nadine," a gruff voice called. She turned to see Dr. Sunrick, a reptilian medic with yellow eyes that always seemed half-bored. "You should stick to the minor injuries. Let the real doctors handle the serious cases." Nadine clenched her jaw but nodded. Arguing was pointless. She wasn't even supposed to be here. Most humans weren't soldiers in this war, just support personnel. But she hadn't traveled across galaxies to be useless. The sound of explosions rocked the ground, sending tremors through the medical outpost. Nadine's heart pounded as distant screams filled the air. Then the alarms blared. A sudden attack. She rushed outside, seeing alien soldiers scrambling to respond. The enemy had broken through the outer defenses. The medical tent, usually ignored, was now in direct danger. "Evacuate the wounded," someone shouted. But Nadine saw the problem immediately. There was no time. The critically injured wouldn't survive the retreat. She gritted her teeth. No one would listen to her. No one ever did. Fine. Then she'd handle it herself. She grabbed a medkit and sprinted towards the battlefield. The turning point. Nadine ran headfirst into chaos. Plasma blasts streaked through the air, lighting up the battlefield in flashes of red and blue. The metallic scent of burnt flesh and gunpowder filled her nose, but she forced herself to focus. Soldiers screamed as they fell, their bodies torn apart by enemy fire. She had to act fast. She skidded to a halt beside a fallen warrior, a massive, feline-like alien with deep slashes across his chest. His golden eyes fluttered weakly as he struggled to breathe. "You're not dying today," she muttered, pressing her hands over the wound. Her medkit whirred as she injected nanobots into his bloodstream. His body tensed in shock before relaxing as the bots began repairing his torn flesh. A shadow loomed over her. Nadine looked up and saw a towering figure, Commander Varen. His obsidian-black armor was streaked with fresh blood, his crimson eyes locked onto her with suspicion. She had seen him before, an elite war strategist, ruthless and cold. "You," he growled. "Why are you on the battlefield?" She didn't have time for his skepticism. "I'm saving your men," she snapped, not stopping her work. "Now either help me or get out of my way." His eyes narrowed, clearly not used to being ordered around, especially by a human. But before he could reply, another explosion rocked the ground. More injured soldiers. More dying warriors. Varen hesitated only for a second before making a decision. "You." He pointed at Nadine. "Follow me." She barely had time to react before he grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the front line. The enemy had pushed forward, cutting down warriors in their path. "Stay close," Varen commanded. Nadine barely had time to protest before they were dodging through gunfire. They reached a makeshift barricade, where a group of alien soldiers lay bleeding, abandoned by their retreating comrades. "They're dying," one of the soldiers gasped. "We don't have a medic." Nadine knelt beside him, already scanning his injuries. "You do now." She pulled out her tools, ignoring the gunfire overhead. One soldier had a plasma burn searing through his abdomen. Another was barely breathing from a collapsed lung. "You're wasting time," Varen said. "They won't make it." "They will if you cover me," she shot back. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes, respect. He gave a sharp nod, turning to bark orders to his remaining troops. As they provided cover fire, Nadine moved faster than she ever had before. Every movement mattered. Every second counted. Her hands blurred as she injected painkillers, sealed wounds, and stabilized organs. The soldiers she treated began gasping for breath, their bodies regaining strength. Then she did the impossible. A warrior had flatlined. No pulse. No response. Nadine's fingers flew over her tools, adrenaline pushing her beyond exhaustion. "Come on," she whispered, pressing the defibrillator to his chest. A shock. Nothing. Another shock. His body convulsed, then suddenly, he coughed. The surrounding soldiers stared in stunned silence. A human medic had just brought a warrior back from the dead. Varen watched her, his usual icy expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "Perhaps you are more than what you seem, human." But before Nadine could respond, another voice echoed through the battlefield. "Find the medic. The enemy wants her captured, alive." Her blood ran cold. She had become a target. Hunted in the battlefield. Nadine's breath hitched as the chilling command echoed across the war-torn valley. "Find the medic. The enemy wants her alive." Her hands tightened around the straps of her medpack, heart pounding. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained for this. But it didn't matter, the enemy had seen what she could do. And now, they wanted her. Varen's crimson eyes narrowed as he processed the new threat. He turned to his soldiers. "Fall back and protect the wounded. I'll take care of this." "But Commander," one soldier began. "That's an order," Varen growled. The warriors obeyed without hesitation, dragging their injured comrades to safety. That left Nadine standing alone with Varen in the middle of the battlefield, exposed and vulnerable. She swallowed hard. "What do we do?" Varen didn't answer right away. Instead, he surveyed the area with sharp efficiency. His body tensed like a predator on the hunt. Then, without warning, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her into a sprint. "Run!" They dashed between burning wreckage, weaving through broken terrain as laser fire erupted behind them. Nadine's lungs burned, but she pushed forward, her boots kicking up dust. A plasma bolt sizzled past her shoulder. She gasped, stumbling. Varen yanked her forward, shielding her with his armored frame. "Keep moving." Behind them, dark figures emerged from the smoke. The enemy warriors were closing in, tall, skeletal creatures with glowing blue visors and sleek black armor. Their movements were unnervingly fast, their weapons trained on her. "They don't want to kill me," she realized. "They want to take me." A cold chill ran down her spine. They reached the ruins of an old watchtower, its stone walls crumbling from past battles. Varen shoved her inside, pressing his back against the entrance. "Stay down," he ordered, drawing his blade. Nadine barely had time to catch her breath before the enemy reached them. 3 figures stormed in, weapons raised. Varen moved like lightning. His blade sliced through the first soldier's throat before the enemy could react. The second lunged, but Varen sidestepped and drove his elbow into the creature's ribs, sending it crashing into the wall. The third enemy aimed directly at Nadine. Time slowed. She saw the finger tighten on the trigger. Varen threw himself in front of her. The plasma bolt hit his side. His body jerked, but he didn't stop moving. With a feral growl, he swung his sword in a deadly arc, decapitating the last enemy. Silence. Varen staggered, gripping his side. Nadine rushed forward, panic rising. "You're hit." "It's nothing," he gritted out, but when he moved, blood leaked through his armor. "Sit down." For once, he didn't argue. Nadine worked quickly, ignoring the chaos around them. She pressed a healing gel to the wound, feeling the tension in his muscles as he suppressed a wince. "You saved me," she murmured. Varen exhaled. "You're too valuable to lose." She knew he meant it in a tactical sense. But something in his voice felt different. Before she could reply, the communicator on his wrist crackled. A static-filled voice came through. "Commander, we have a problem. More enemy forces are approaching. They know about the human. They won't stop until they have her." Nadine's stomach twisted. They weren't just running anymore. They were being hunted. The price of being a legend. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burnt metal. Nadine crouched beside Varen, listening as the enemy's forces closed in on them. The watchtower barely provided enough cover. If they stayed, they'd be trapped. Varen's communicator crackled again. "Commander, we have ships incoming. We need to get you both out now." Varen exhaled, shifting slightly. His wound was still fresh, but he masked his pain well. Nadine knew he wouldn't let it slow him down. "We make a run for it," he said, his voice firm. "Stay behind me. If I tell you to move, you move." Nadine swallowed hard and nodded. Then, without hesitation, they ran. Laser fire erupted around them as the enemy spotted them. Nadine ducked behind a collapsed pillar, breathing hard. The battlefield was turning against them, too many enemies, too little cover. Varen was already engaging two opponents at once, his blade moving with deadly precision. But more were coming. They won't stop, Nadine realized. They'll keep coming for me. She gritted her teeth. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a fighter. But she wouldn't be a burden. Her eyes darted to a nearby supply crate. A medic's pack, likely from a fallen soldier. She grabbed it and rummaged through. "Come on, there." Her fingers wrapped around a set of stun grenades. Nadine took a deep breath, then hurled one toward the approaching enemies. Boom! A blinding flash lit up the battlefield. The enemies stumbled, momentarily disoriented. Varen looked back at her, surprise flashing in his crimson eyes. Then a hint of approval. "Clever." She tossed another. Boom! The brief opening gave them a chance to push forward. They sprinted toward the extraction point, but a massive figure stepped into their path. A high-ranking enemy officer. Towering, armored, and deadly. "Medic," the officer's voice was deep and grating, his visor glowing eerily. "Come with us. You will not be harmed." Nadine's heart pounded. Before she could react, Varen lunged. Their blades clashed in a violent shower of sparks. Varen fought with raw power, but the enemy was equally skilled. Their movements were swift and brutal, neither giving an inch. Nadine felt helpless. She had to do something. Her mind raced. What did she have? Her hands clenched around the last stun grenade. This has to work. She waited for the perfect moment, when the officer raised his weapon, then threw the grenade directly at his face. Boom! The enemy officer reeled back, his visor flickering. That was all the opening Varen needed. With a vicious strike, he drove his sword through the officer's chest. The enemy fell. Varen turned to Nadine, breathing heavily. "You're either reckless or brilliant." "Both," she admitted. The sound of approaching ships filled the air. Their allies had arrived. But so had more enemies. A voice echoed through the battlefield. "Seize the medic. She is worth more than the war itself." Nadine's stomach dropped. They didn't just want her. They would do anything to take her. The weight of a legend. The battlefield was chaos. Explosions shook the ground, laser fire streaked through the air, and the enemy forces were closing in. Nadine barely had time to catch her breath before the realization hit her: they weren't just trying to win the battle. They were trying to take her. Seize the medic. She is worth more than the war itself. The words echoed in her mind. It was no longer about survival. It was about stopping them from capturing her. Varen grabbed her wrist, pulling her forward. We have to get to the ship, now. They sprinted through the battlefield, dodging incoming fire. Nadine's lungs burned, but she pushed forward. She could see the extraction point, just a few hundred meters away. Then, the ground trembled. A massive war mech dropped from the enemy's ship, its metallic frame gleaming in the firelight. Nadine's breath caught in her throat. It was coming straight for them. We can't outrun that thing, Varen growled, gripping his sword. Think, Nadine, think. Her fingers brushed against the emergency syringes strapped to her belt. A powerful stimulant used for soldiers suffering from shock, enough to supercharge their systems for a short period of time. It was a desperate move. She turned to Varen. Do you trust me? His crimson eyes met hers. No hesitation. Always. Without another word, she jabbed the syringe into his arm. Varen staggered back, eyes widening as the stimulant surged through his veins. His muscles tensed, his breathing quickened, then, a slow smirk spread across his lips. That was reckless, he muttered. She nodded. So is charging a war mech alone. With a roar, Varen launched himself at the towering enemy. The battle was a blur of metal and fury. He was faster, stronger, his blade moving like a storm of steel. The mech swung its massive arm, but he dodged, twisting midair and driving his sword deep into its core. Sparks erupted as the mech collapsed. Nadine didn't waste a second. She grabbed Varen's arm, dragging him toward the ship. Their allies were holding the line, covering their escape. The moment they reached the ramp, the ship's thrusters roared to life. The doors sealed behind them just as the enemy forces surged forward, too late. They were safe. For now. A new beginning. Nadine slumped against the cold metal wall, her body aching, her mind racing. The war wasn't over. The enemy would come for her again. She looked up at Varen, still breathing heavily from the fight. You okay? She asked. He exhaled sharply, then smirked. I think I just fought a war mech. What do you think? She chuckled weakly. Silence settled between them. Then, Varen's expression turned serious. They'll keep coming for you, he said quietly. You know that, right? Nadine swallowed. She knew. She had become a legend. Not because she was a soldier. Not because she could fight. But because she saved lives. And that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. Varen held out his hand. Then let's make sure they never take you. Nadine took his hand, gripping it tightly. If they come for me, she thought, they'll regret it. Because she wasn't just a medic anymore. She was the one thing they feared most.